Chapter 7. Basic practices and beacons on the way of self-knowledge for spiritual practitioners. The beginning is the inner impulse of the soul, that it has decided to truly take the path of self-knowledge. A set of spiritual knowledge from all the teachings creates an understanding that all the teachings say almost the same thing, only they convey it to the spiritual practitioner in different ways. Having understood this, the practitioner stops wasting time searching for the miracle of the teaching, starts from the main thing, looks for the lost impersonal love in himself for all eternity, finding, trying on and balancing everyone and everything in his mind. He does this with the help of the found impersonal love for all eternity. Love tells him that everything is a single divine consciousness, and for this everything, he is ready to give the life of his soul. From that moment, the silence of the meditative round-the-clock state sets in, and spiritual teachers begin to come to him in dreams with such a teaching. What if he wants to know God? Then he must forget everything and at some stage of the spiritual level become no one, nowhere, no when, and then he will become everything, everywhere, and always. In this state, the ego begins to dissolve consciousness, and the individual existence of the soul begins to lose all meaning. Individuality becomes a game of the spiritual practitioner when he comes into contact with other players in the planetary games of consciousness. From this state, the spiritual practitioner begins to see and realize himself in many different beings, different dimensions, sometimes at the same time. This is the way of becoming a free consciousness Mahasiddha. Then he lives two lives. In one he plays a human, in the other he no longer exists as something separate from eternity. He realizes himself as an active space of a single consciousness and spontaneously harmonizes his eternity, helping the rest of himself in the image of his entire eternity. So the practitioner who wanted to know God returns to himself, the one God, as the space of the luminous consciousness of his eternity, and the path of self-knowledge ends with the knowledge of himself, the only God of eternity. There are a lot of intermediate paths and dead ends on the path of the spiritual practitioner. Some catch him in their conclusions, and he, like a newly imprisoned inmate, sits out the term until his spiritual readiness to explode in spirit and break the prison of his conclusions and break free, where there is no interference, but there is a single eternally free awareness of oneself as the beginning of eternity itself, or the God of eternity. So look at your teachers. Have they become the freedom of eternal united consciousness? Do they free you from endless practices and ancient dogmas of teachings? Do you feel freedom in short months being in their disciples? Or you got into the spider's web into consciousness, where, having escaped from the worldly web, you got into a false spiritual web, where years pass and you are no longer made worldly inmates, but spiritual inmates, and the knowledge of yourself as the God of eternity has not come. There are only beautiful rituals in the mind of the teacher, and then in yours. Ask yourself a simple question: who, besides myself, can love in me, or dissolve the ego consciousness, and then return the soul to yourself, the God of eternity? For this, you need not lie to yourself, but just take it and do it for yourself, and engage in disputes with teachers, so that they would better persuade me to a spiritual feat. This is self-deception. It means that this is not your karmic time yet. With self-deception you will not come anywhere in spiritual practice. Everything is simple here. You have to do it. Don't torture yourself. Come back to finish playing karmic games. After all, the teacher and the teaching are just a crutch for the spiritually ill. He is only a support for your consciousness, and you will have to be treated with spiritual cleansing yourself. And this is to stop lying to yourself and engage in the spiritual transformation of the soul until it completely merges in the God of eternity with itself.